Okay, welcome to the Hanson Board of Selectmen meeting. Tonight is February 24th, 2020, and I would invite you to all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, well, we have an action-packed agenda. And first up, Planning Board, did you guys want to convene your meeting officially so that...
Meeting, Planning Board meeting tonight, February 25th, 2020. All our present forms from here. You are here? I think I recognize you. Okay.
All right, great. So this is a joint meeting to fill a vacancy that they will have until the May town election. And with that, I think I will cue it up to you, Mr. Ellis, if you want to kind of tell us where you guys are at, and then we'll take it from there.
Well, basically, we've had a vacancy in on the board for a gentleman who was on here for a number of years, resigned. So we're trying to fill the vacancy to keep moving along, to have a full board. The board, I think, made an announcement to that effect a couple of weeks ago, and it was in the Express, I believe, for that position is available. We had one gentleman apply for it, and he came last night to our meeting, and we discussed it with him and feel that he's a good candidate for the position. So Mr. Cohen is his name, and he's a resident of the town, has grown up in the town, come back and lived in the town, bought his parents' house, and he lives on Spring Street.
Okay.
With that, we discussed it amongst ourselves afterwards during the meeting and approved unanimously for him to be in the position. So the board can ask Mr. Cohen some questions if you see fit.
Okay, Mr. Cohen, I'm going to presume that you are Mr. Cohen. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in this position?
So I've been living in the town for almost my whole life now. I did leave for a couple of years to go to college. I attended Westfield State College out in Western Mass, and I majored in business management. And then after my major of business management, I started my own business. I was located here in town for a little while, but then after needing more space and having trouble finding appropriate space that I needed, I did move over to the Hanover Industrial Park. My business is a doggy daycare business, and I currently live on Spring Street. I bought my parents' house, and now I'm raising my two children there. I have a 6- and 7-year-old, 2 girls. Happy to be back in Hanson. I've been here since about 2010 for the latter part of being here in Hanson. And I love our little town here, and I would like to be a part of making it a better town. And I think a good start would be to join the planning board.
Well, we are thrilled to have you applying, and you are clearly enthusiastic, which is a huge bonus. I don't know, did you guys have any questions for Mr. Cohen?
Any questions? Yeah.
No, I mean, I think at this point I will entertain a motion, and the way we're going to work that is we will entertain a motion, take the vote. Planning will entertain a motion and take a vote, and then hopefully we'll all agree.
Do you need me to leave for this?
No.
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 Oh, no. If you leave, you won't come back.
So I will entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Okay. All in favor of appointing Kevin Cohen to the planning board? Okay, great.
I'll make a motion to appoint Kevin Cohen to the planning board.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
4-0.
Congratulations, and we're thrilled to have you doing this. And the beauty of this is you can dip your toes in the water, and hopefully you're going to like it, not run screaming, from the water. But, I think you'll find all of these guys are very helpful and will share whatever information they know. And, all right, thanks, guys, we appreciate it.
Before they leave.
One moment.
So you have to say that this only lasts until the May town election?
Yes, this only lasts until May town election. I did say that at the beginning,
did.
but this does only last until May town election, in which case we're hoping you're going to also pull papers and, or run an aggressive write-in campaign. In either event, just do something to get back in there if you like it. And we appreciate the partnership, guys, and getting somebody in the role. All right,
And
thank
you have to
you.
be sworn in by the town clerk, too.
Yes, yep. And so, did you want to adjourn your meeting?
Okay, a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? 4-0.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Kev, go right upstairs to Beth Sloan right now.
Oh, right now?
Yeah,
Right
she's
now.
there now.
She's there.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Nice to meet you.
Congratulations and thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Nice meeting you. Nice, congratulations.
Yes, young man.
Keep it coming. Okay, and with that, Mr. Cahill, you are next on our agenda, Highway Director regarding complete streets. And you can either speak to us there or from the podium. You do look like you got duded up for the occasion, so,
I just wanted to
we appreciate that.
So we are prepared to move forward with the Complete Streets project. I reviewed all the documents and the construction plans. I met with environmental partners and the town planner at a great meeting, discussed a few things. There was some concern on my end about the schedule. After further talk with Jim Fitzgerald, the designer, we came to the decision to just add some language in to, if we end up having concerns with traffic and other problems outside, because of the location of the project, we have the right to ask the contractor to do some work at night instead of doing some of it during the day at no additional cost to the town.
All right, so there won't be an upcharge on that?
Nope.
Okay. All right.
On top of that, I did approve an addition of conduit to run from this signal to the end of the project on the new box. The intent is, if the town so deems it fit, the next Complete Streets project is this intersection right here in town. And so those lights just got hit not too long ago, actually, when I was out on leave,
Right.
I guess, by a waste management truck.
Yep.
And damaged significantly. But the nice part is we're going to get some seed money if we decide to move forward with the next Complete Streets project. And that would be looking at redoing this intersection here and putting in some ornamental light arms, or mast arms, and doing maybe some nice ornamental crosswalks in that project. Yeah, please.
Matt, just for the viewers at home that aren't familiar with this project, could you just quickly describe what the project is?
So the current one is they're going to redo this intersection, County and Liberty. That's the one that's coming up, going up to bid, and High Street. And what the intent is to add crosswalks and redo the sidewalks at the intersection, and do some new striping, and we're going to repave it. The idea is to make it a safer route for the children that are coming out of the middle school in the afternoon on the half days on Fridays. We found that they populate that area of town heavily, and the idea was to kind of create a safer area for them and also make it a better traveling spot for the commuters in town. So that's this upcoming one. And the next one would be this intersection down here, and what we'd be looking at next.
Any other questions?
No?
Okay, great. Thanks for the update. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, clipping right along. Mary Ann Damasio and regarding the community choice aggregation. And I think you've got a PowerPoint or... Okay.
Is it enough to send to you? Yes. Yes, okay. So I can start before it goes on. I'm Mary Ann Damasio, and I'm speaking on behalf of Green Hanson, and talking about community choice aggregation. And I want to read a brief letter that many people here, many people watching probably have received. Energy deregulation in Massachusetts allows you to select the energy supply used to power your home. Simply sign and return the form below. Get 100% clean, pollution-free energy. It's easy. All that's needed is your permission to switch. Just complete the form and return in the postage-paid envelope. Anyone get one of these in the mail before?
Quite a few of them.
Phone calls. It's easy. Don't worry. Everything's perfect. You'll never pay another bill again. So anyway, this is what energy deregulation looks like right now, where people are trying to get you to buy energy and you don't really know all the details. They tell you it's so easy, and you know, it's hard to figure out the research. Is this real? Is it not? So there's a solution. It's not just for this reason, but there's something called community choice aggregation. And I'm using part of like 6 or 7 slides from a PowerPoint that was done by Mass Climate Action Network. And it's a program that is happening in Massachusetts. There are about, I think, 160 towns or so that already have done community aggregation. And think of it like a buyer's club. Right now, we're all individual buyers buying energy from National Grid. But if we got together as a town and decided to buy our energy together, then we'd get a better deal. And that's basically what this is, but layered on top of it is trying to get some renewable energy. Right now, the state of Massachusetts has a requirement that energy is 14% from renewable energy sources. So that's for everyone in the state. And what towns are doing, and cities, is adding a little bit more renewable energy so that we're trying to make a difference, do something about some of the energy source and climate change. And so the community choice aggregation would allow the town to do that. So big question is, well, what does it cost? Right now I pay for 100% renewable energy from National Grid, and it's more expensive. So there's, wait a minute, we don't want anything to be more expensive. But with the power of the buying as a community, you can get some of the prices down. So I'll keep on talking.
I think the PowerPoint was already.
Some of the surrounding communities that have already done this are Rockland, Situate. I just did a Green Scene cable show and I had someone on from Situate. They're working with Cohasset and they're getting even more people together so that they can get a bit better deal. So they're working it out. Halifax has done it. Some towns, there are more towns that have done it and they haven't added green energy, but I would hope that we would try to get a little green energy in the mix because it's a good thing to do, to try to get more solar and wind. So what happens is that you vote at town meeting. Marshfield has done it also. They voted
Abington.
Abington. There are more towns, West Bridgewater, but some of those towns are just doing energy and some are doing green energy. So I'm pretty sure Marshfield, Situate, I know Rockland is. So, let's see. So the process is at town meeting, there'd be a warrant describing this. There are a few that we could borrow and look at from Marshfield or Situate. And then the town would get a broker at no cost to the town. There's several different, or more than several, a bunch of different brokers that can lead the town through the process. So is there a clicker? Or are you going to do it now?
I'll be a clicker tonight.
Okay. So this is courtesy of Mass Climate Action Network, and I made some changes to it. So I talked about a lot of this. So if you go to the next one,
Opting out, I think, is...
Yes, opting out is important. So what would happen is the town would say, okay, go through the process. It might take about, I think Situate said it was about 1.5 years to go through all the steps to negotiate and get the deal. But what happens is everyone gets into the program. And you would be getting your energy through the deal that is the broker and the town work out. At any time, anyone can opt out of it. So there's no requirement that people who live in this town stay part of this agreement.
But that's the default. It requires an action on somebody's part to get out of it.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Right now, you're not getting any renewable energy or any at the moment. But if you want to, you answer one of these letters or you tell National Grid you want it. So it would be the opposite, that you would be in with the townspeople, and then if you don't want it, you just opt out.
And now what happens if somebody has answered one of those letters already? Does the town entering into the CCA supersede that?
No.
Okay.
I think there's something up here, but I think I have to double check on that. So residents can opt out, and electricity is still distributed through National Grid. So the next slide. this is what happens now with community, with our energy, that here's the source, and no energy is produced in Massachusetts, so they're already buying the energy. It gets delivered, this one says Eversource, but for here it's National Grid, and then it comes to you. If you have CCA, this whole part is the same. Your bill is the same, you're still having National Grid, nothing looks different, but where they're buying the energy is a little bit different. So that's really, it doesn't look any different to the people that are getting a bill or live in the town.
So if I have like a power line down, I still call?
Yeah, all of that is
Yeah,
the same.
okay.
Yeah, it doesn't look any different. They do the same thing. So this next one is a repeat, if you go to the next one. Some of the same thing. So I think I've said most of this. Yes, I've said all those things, so we'll go through. So yes, you can keep your current plan if you want to. You can keep the National Grid defaults or Laura, whatever energy program you choose. And then you find the magic number for your town. Rockland shows 5%, Lowell shows 40%.
And who chooses that? What is the process for that?
That's coming up.
Okay.
You see that coming up. I said this, the minimum is 14%, and then towns can choose how much renewable to get. And who else is doing this? 151 towns, plus some of the local towns also, and cities.
Did you say Rockland was doing 5%?
Yeah, I'll show you. I have a slide that shows exactly what they're doing and the cost. So next slide. So here's an example from Rockland. This is what you would be paying right now, or this might have been negotiated in the last year, so I don't know at this moment, but this is what you'd be paying is 13, almost 14 cents per kilowatt hour. So they negotiated, they have 5% more local renewable energy, and the cost is 10.7 cents. So theirs went down a lot. It's not guaranteed through the process that it will always go down because, you know, energy markets go like this, but theirs went down. And even for people, they gave an option for people to opt up to 100%. That number is still less than the National Grid Basic Service. So this is one example. It could vary. And then I said down here, Newton went with 25%, Lowell went with 40%. So towns can pick what's right for them. And I think some of it has to do with the price point. So the next one answers your question, and that's. So it's a long process, but basically you have town meeting, you pick a broker, you get a committee to work on it. They create a plan, no cost to the town, come back, approve it, and then they have to approve it in Department of Energy Resources, Public Utilities, At any point, the town does not have to go forward with it. It's not like once you do it, you're signing away your life. So you can still choose at the end. There is no obligation for the town to proceed. And then the broker works with all the opt-out requests too. So when you go on the Rockland site, it's pretty easy. It says opt-out here, and they have all the information. So it just seems like a win-win proposition to try to get this for the town and be doing something good at the same time. And I think there's just one last slide. Oh, there you go. And this part I think is important right now. All the people who are getting letters and calls saying, I don't know what to do. Should I really go with this? Or Maura Healy has a suit because some of the people that go with these deals find out a year later that the prices skyrocket. So it just takes away all that angst about should I be going with this and whether or not you're making the right decision. So we're putting it on the town, but there's a broker. There are brokers that will go through the whole process. And I think the last one just shows some information.
And typically, how long are these agreements for? You know, that you...
I feel like it's, I feel like it was 3 years, but I'm not actually positive about that.
Okay.
But if you go through a year and a half of negotiating, I'm hoping it's not 1 year of...
Any questions? Mr. Dyer?
So on a couple of slides back, it said that the town chooses the energy supplier.
So can you go back?
Yeah, on that second to last
It
one.
says town selects electricity supplier.
Yeah, after the broker issues the request and the suppliers. And the broker works with you through all that. So I don't know specifically, like I haven't been through this and I'm not an expert
So
on
it's a bid process, and of the people that bid, we choose.
Okay.
So you probably are
yeah.
going to get what we saw for Rockland. You probably get a few different bids that would look like that. Oh, this one's going to supply this, and maybe the opt-out is higher or lower, so you get to decide after that. But I believe the broker walks people through the steps.
And then, through you, Ms. Chair, another question I had for you, Marianne, would be, as we purchase, as we're paying for renewable energy from, am I mistaken, from New England?
Yes, that's another important thing. Sometimes you pay for renewable energy on the other side of the country, and it's just excess energy, and it's not creating new green energy, but it's local green energy. So it could be also creating jobs locally, and locally I think it means sort of Northeast New England.
Okay. So with that, is there the capacity, is there the capacity here in the Northeast to supply the demand of renewable energy?
I have not heard any issue with that. I spoke with Carol Oldham, who gave me the slides, and we've talked several times about this, and I've gone to some of her presentations. I haven't heard any issue with that.
Okay, yeah, I didn't want to be having people pay for a product that they're not receiving, because let's just say it was 100 gigabyte, it was 100 was the demand, and the capacity is only 70% for renewable energies. We're missing that 30%.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
Yeah, but wouldn't they be contractually bound to supply it and come back to us if they weren't able to supply it?
Right, but do we?
I don't know how the hell we would audit
Right.
that. I mean,
Exactly.
I haven't heard any issues at all. That has not been a question at any events I've been to.
So I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Mitchell.
So
Sorry, I'm not the one that answered.
So we would enter into a 2 or 3 year contract. They would guarantee, and I realize you're not familiar with that part, so I'm not trying to put you on the spot. But they would guarantee the rate throughout whatever that period of contract is?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. And then who would police it if it goes up? Like some of those people in the letter that you showed, how it just goes up on its own.
Right. Well, that's where you have the broker who's helping you do research. You have DP, the Department of Public Utilities, looking at the plan. You have Energy Resources, and they're working with 151 cities. So I think you're getting some good technical assistance.
And I would assume in the case where these individuals have signed up, there's probably some small print that says after a year we can, and so then they don't see that, they just see the initial cost savings and they get hoodwinked.
And last question, so the broker, we would never have to pay the broker any fees
No,
at
they
all
get something
throughout
like
the whole process?
0.001% of something. It looked like a very small percentage.
Okay, probably once the contract is signed and it's entered into.
I do not know that.
But if you think about it, it probably is a small percentage, but in aggregate, it's probably
they're probably making
quite a
some money.
handsome
They
sum.
wouldn't.
Yeah. But it's not coming out of necessarily our pocket. There's still savings. What is the downside? Why wouldn't we want to do this?
I don't know, other than if you calculated all this and the cost was going to be higher than what it is now.
Yeah.
So I can think of that as the only one.
Okay.
But I've looked at a few sites and there've been some good, like the Rockland one. I think they had residential, commercial, and industrial, and I think one of them was a little bit higher, but still not as high as the National Grid price.
Okay. And so your intention is you're thinking that you'd like to have this on the town warrant?
If possible.
Okay.
Yes. And we have worked with, or been in touch with the Marshfield group and the Situate group, so we could provide some samples. And one of them is just to warrant to do this, and another one, I think Marshfield had a non-binding kind of resolution. I don't know exactly what the wording was, but to encourage that there would be some green as part of it, not just to have it be a community aggregation, the same energy, and just negotiate the prices, but to have some of the green energy.
Mr. Dyer, will this tie in at all with your goals on the Energy Committee?
The Energy Committee, we're focused on municipal energy consumption, not residential.
We would still see savings, right? And more green energy being used as a municipality.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah, okay.
Because we also signed into that Blue Dog Solar a couple years ago.
That's right.
So I think we might be on a different...
Yeah. The interplay there could be,
Right.
yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Bloss, Mr. Hickey?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, so, Mr. Young.
Something I never understood about these programs, because I'm not electrical minded, as an accountant by trade, is that you'd be buying the power from someone else, but it's going through the National Grid power lines. Is that what you're saying?
Right. All of the electricity is coming from someone else because National Grid doesn't produce electricity themselves. So everything they're getting, they are purchasing from somewhere already. So it's just,
It's a commodity.
We had the two
Yeah.
guys from National Grid here a few weeks
Yes.
ago, and they were explaining how it works, and if the power comes through
Yep.
other towns to get the Hanson.
Yep.
So how would that work if it's coming through other towns, and those other towns don't have the same?
It's all going to work the same way. It's just somebody else
I
is
just don't
Yeah.
understand how that.
yeah, it's not going to change the way it's routed or gets to us.
Yeah, but if it's passing through another town, and the other town doesn't have the agreement with that other town, who is the other town buying their power from? I don't understand it.
Mr. Dye.
Well, I'll see. I think where you're going from is how do you make sure that you're getting renewable energy going to your house? And to be honest with you, you can't control what kind of energy is coming into your house. It's just that the National Grid has to purchase, so many more percentages of renewable energy to supply the grid. Is that correct, Marianne?
again, I'm not the expert, but it sounds like what kind of answer I give you.
Maybe somebody else knows.
Well, but I'm sure that that's where the
broker comes in.
The broker comes in, the Department of Public Utilities is going to check that if they're making a representation that there's 30% or 20% renewable, that it is, I think there's checks and balances in there. Where are you guys at on, do you want to make a motion to put this in the warrant? Do you want to take it under advisement? Do you have questions? Do we want to talk to a town that's implemented it? I'm just throwing these things out, I don't know.
Would it be a Board of Selectmen warrant article?
Certainly Mary Ann could do a citizen's petition, but I think it would hold more weight if it were a selectman's article, and I think that's why she's coming to us, is hoping that we'll support it and make it a selectman's
What do we have for a date to get everything on?
What's our drop dead date?
March 8th.
Okay, but we could do a placeholder.
Yes.
Without having the full language and, and all that in there.
Yes.
Okay, so what do people think about that?
I'm willing to let the town consider.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm fine with it too.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is what percentage would Hanson want to go for? Are we going for the 5%? Are we going for the 25%? Are we going for the 100%? I think that's the other part of it too.
And at what point is that decision made? Is that with the broker?
I think it's somewhere through here, and that's why I was saying if it makes sense to have another citizen resolution saying we urge you to try to get a competitive price with some green energy.
I hesitate to hamstring ourselves that way. I'll just be honest with you. I think we would support that, but what I don't want is to have something that is passed a town meeting that somehow hamstrings us from making the best absolute deal for the citizens of Hanson because we're wedded to this percentage.
Yeah, no, I wasn't saying a percentage, but
yeah.
just sort of the intent of part of this is to get some.
But it says we can get out at any time.
Yeah.
If you don't like
But
it.
if we're talking about, it's going to take a year and a half, and then the contract itself may only be 2 or 3 years.
We don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Right.
That was,
Yeah.
But if we went small at the beginning, we could, and it worked out well, then you could go more.
Change it after.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and I think honestly, we don't know what we don't know. We're going to get a broker who's going to say, here's your, here's the upside of doing a higher percent, here's the downside, here's the prices, what do you guys think you want it to look like? And we'll have a support committee.
But
It seems to me Mary Ann and Matt are saying, though, that we have to make a decision early on as to
Yes.
what percentage we're adding, because we're going to pursue the plan, the broker's going to create the plan, and we're going to approve the plan. That sounds to me like certainly by the time we're approving a plan, there's a percentage in the
yeah,
plan.
I think it happens more here.
Yeah.
I don't think it's up here.
No, not
We're
a town meeting, but I'm
It's somewhere
saying,
here
within
when you
the-
start to get information.
It's starting right down here at the top. It's not, this
Right,
does not happen
exactly.
later on in the
No,
process.
it's
It
definitely up
happens.
there.
But we would
Well, you'll have a
form
lot
a
of
support
information.
committee whose responsibility would be to research these things and drill down a little bit more on the details for us.
Yes, but what authority does the support committee have to choose a percentage?
they're gonna come back to us with recommendations and say they don't have any, they're not empowered to choose it, they're gonna come back to us.
All right, that's going to be early on. That's even going to have to happen before the broker
Yes.
creates his plan.
Yep.
But wouldn't the percentage be chosen after town meeting votes on it? You gonna talk about percentages prior to?
No,
No,
okay.
after.
no.
Once you have more, there's a lot of unknowns right now, so
Yeah.
I think
Right.
it's all coming in.
I think the
Once you
first
get
thing you're
the
gonna do is
broker-
put it out and let the people vote on it before you can do anything,
Right.
and
Yes.
then you work it from there.
Right. We get the article on the town warrant, see if people, are bullish about it. If they are, then we form the support committee.
Right.
And then we follow the rest of the steps. Ms. Diaz?
My understanding that you're going to add a percentage on top of the state's 14%, right?
Not clear. Yes,
Whatever-
well, that's the,
whatever we add.
that's the hope.
That's
from
one
our
of the
point view.
proposals on the
Hope.
table.
14,
Yep.
and then we can add what we want on top.
Correct.
Yes.
To the extent that that
But yeah,
is what we all decide that we're going to do. After we have the support committee, they bring back the findings to the selectmen. We become more educated because, this is a learning curve here. Yeah. Any, Mr. Stanbrook, thoughts, reflections?
I mean, I don't know the town well enough to know whether or not this is something they'd want. I've never heard of this before, so I'm learning along with everyone else. I've never heard of this type of thing before, so seems interesting. Seems something.
It does seem, in a lot of ways, semi-similar to the the solar energy
Wave, yeah.
agreement that we reached. It seemed, it's got components of it. It's not identical, but it's got components. Mr. Young?
Adding the percentage to the 14% usually decrease the cost if you add a percentage? Is that the way it works?
I do not know for sure. I think it depends on a lot of alternatives.
It looks more like the aggregation is what
Aggregation is what decreases the cost.
Right.
not the percentage added on. Let's face it, I'm going to assume that the more green energy we opt for, the more expensive it will be. It just looks like it never goes above what we're paying now because we're saving a bunch by aggregating.
That's what I'm getting
Except
at.
that the cost of solar is now lower than some of the fossil fuels.
And that just makes our job easier. Well, I mean, it just sounded like we're all sort of there, so do I make a motion that we get a template and put this on the town meeting?
Okay.
And then we'll figure out the percentages after.
So you're seconding it?
Kenny.
No, I'm saying Kenny. Okay, any further comment or discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, great. Thank you for bringing it to us. So you're going
Get some
to
templates from
get us some
local towns?
templates and maybe if there's somebody you might be able to connect our town hall with,
A person in a.
Right, I mean,
Yeah.
really, you're going
Yeah.
right to John,
yeah,
right?
Okay.
through John and Greer. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
for
so
the
much.
time to discuss.
Yeah, maybe we get a couple of articles from a couple other towns and
Yeah,
review
yeah,
those.
Northfield and
Yeah.
Situate, at least maybe Rockland.
So we have a
Yeah,
template.
definitely.
Oh, you have it?
You bring in samples.
All right, great.
Before we go out and start getting samples.
Moving right along.
Template.
Execute the treasurer collector's contract for 7/1/20 to 6/30/21. Mr. Stanbrook.
So I went into negotiations with our treasurer collector, Gene Sullivan. We were able to come to an agreement that's a one-year term with a 2% increase on the amount of money that she'll be getting for an annual salary. So she'll be going from $84,121. I'm sorry, she'll be going to $84,121. That'll be her fiscal year 21 salary. So the only changes in the contract were that they were for 1 year instead of the standard 3 years, and there's a 2% increase in the annual salary line. Everything else is the same.
Okay. Any questions? Kenny, did you have something?
No, I was just gonna say a motion.
Okay, yep.
I'd like to make I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
What?
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion.
A motion to accept the treasurer collector's contract for annual salary of $84,121 for a period of July 1st, 2020 to expire June 30th, 2021.
Okay.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Great. In your packet, you guys will see the January donations. And once you've had an opportunity to read them, I will entertain a motion.
I've read. So moved.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Did we just skip proposed articles?
We did, I'm sorry, that was not intentional. Maybe Freudian, but not intentional. Okay, Mr. Stanbrook.
So I came up with a list of special town meeting articles and annual town meeting articles that are usually on every year. And you have the list in front of you. With the special town meeting articles is usually unpaid bills, but any budget transfers that are needed in this fiscal year 20, amendments to the wage and personnel bylaw, and there is a reimbursement to the regional school district for elevator repairs at the Indian Head Elementary School. So those are the 5 that we have right now that are special town meeting related. On the annual town meeting, we have the usual ones about report acceptances for annual town reports, compensating balances, fixing elected officials' compensation. I have several placeholders in there. One of them was for school assessment methodology article, one for a Proposition 2.5 override.
I'm sorry, can we back up? Who are we talking about here in fixing elected officials' compensation?
The town, it's an article that has to get voted every year that any elected official has to actually be voted on at town meeting. Their salary.
Sorry, I was specifically asking.
Who are they? I'm sorry,
it's
the town clerk and the tree warden.
Okay.
They have a 2% in there in the budget as of now for their potential raise. So again, the school assessment methodology placeholder article, a Proposition 2.5 override article for the regional school district, again, just placeholders. The annual budget for the general fund, the recreation enterprise, the transfer station enterprise, the community preservation. There's an annual article for a tax title account transfer into the treasurer's added to overlay or allowance for abatements and exemptions is the actual term of it. Again, a highway garage debt exclusion placeholder. The capital improvement program plan adoption, again, that was on last year's. The capital improvement program for the town and for the regional school district. Any acceptance of Chapter 90 funds, any Plymouth County Hospital property improvements, a Mass Trails matching grant funding, I think that's about $30,000 through $3,410, I think it was, to repave the parking lot at 228 High Street. And then the standard, again, stabilization funding articles, regional schools, capital stabilization funding article, the annual revolving fund limit that has to get voted every year on the town's Chapter 4453.5 revolving funds. Then I had changed the highway surveyor to the highway director in the town's bylaws. Everywhere it says the highway surveyor, and now he's the highway director, so you have to change that. Amend the town's sick leave bylaw. Again, that's something else. We had, in the list of things we had, amend the marijuana bylaw title, and I think there's some wording problems with the title of the way that bylaw was voted. I'm getting more information on that right now, but I just have that in there as for discussion.
Yeah, that's news to me.
And revise or clarify the Town Administrator Act on appointing authority issues. And then the last one is the one that we have every year to set the date for town
All right, so can we circle back on a couple of these just because I want to make sure that I understand what we're talking about. Revise or clarify Town Administrator Act on appointing authority issues. I assume this is with respect to the Recreation Commission specifically. Is that what we're talking about? Okay. And the amend the town sick leave bylaw, is this the prospectively to eliminate the unlimited sick leave?
Yes.
Okay. And for the highway garage debt exclusion, I think we'll have to have a conversation about that and timing, but agree that we need to have a placeholder. Where are you going on the school assessment methodology article placeholder?
We had talked about that in a previous meetings, that perhaps we would want to have a vote to change the methodology for school assessments, the way the regional school assesses the town of Hanson. So that was just a placeholder for that.
Okay, I'm not sure, okay. I mean, I guess it's not harmful to have it as a placeholder, but I'm not really sure.
This is kind of the all-encompassing list of things that we had piled up.
Well, I don't think you're suggesting that we're going to be putting a placeholder to change it to statutory.
No,
Okay. I think that's,
I'm sorry, no,
Yeah.
that's not my intention
Okay.
at all.
I
It's
just want to clarify because,
Related to that. Related.
yeah,
But it could be related to that type of,
okay.
that.
Is this in the event that there is, in anticipation of the regional agreement being changed with some type of hybrid assessment methodology? I'm just trying to understand where we're going with this.
It was kind of if there was any change at all to the methodology, that's
Okay.
where it would go. I don't have any particular way of going.
Okay.
Am I,
Yes, yeah.
because you looked at the actual.
Yeah, I believe the board had discussed possibly, in a nebulous way, having one or two articles related to the assessment issue, but if we don't put them on the warrant, you can't have them on the warrant if they're not placed
I think
as
also
placeholders.
one of the things that we have heard is, and I don't know that we're at a point now where we want to put it on, but again, you're saying it's got to be on by March 8th, or you need a placeholder by March 8th, and we're not meeting until March 17th. So we
Yes.
kind of do need to decide this tonight.
Yes.
Is the study of deregionalization is something I have heard that there is a citizens petition out there for. Although I support citizens petitions, I think it's one of the truest forms of democracy. What typically happens is they may be inartfully worded. And I get concerned that if we have an inartfully worded citizens petition about deregionalization, that we could be being asked to do something that, we can't do. For instance, if somebody actually gives us an article to deregionalize, that is not feasible for us to do on the spot. There are steps, there's sequential steps. We don't know the numbers yet. We don't know any of that. So I get concerned, and this isn't to say that I necessarily want to study deregionalization, but I don't want to leave it up to citizens to do a citizens petition asking us to do it when I know that people are asking us already, what does that look like? And we had been told by the school committee chair, Mr. Hayes, that he was going to have John Tuffy do an analysis of the numbers for deregionalization, just kind of a rough cut. We have yet to get those numbers, and so my concern is that without those numbers and without having put an article together that would allow us to independently get to those numbers, we will be in a place where we are right now, which is we do not know the cost for deregionalization. Again, I'm not advocating for deregionalization, but let's be real. It's on the table. We're getting asked about it all the time.
So are you...
You just hold on, Mr. Young.
I was just saying, so are you saying that you think this is worth a placeholder
Yes.
at this point?
Yes.
I mean, because I'm with you. I am not for deregionalization, but if it is out there on the table, I'd rather we were working at it.
That's where I'm coming from, is I want to be responsive to what I'm hearing from people. I'm not advocating for that.
Right.
But it is out there in spades, so.
What would your article?
It would say to study the cost of deregionalization.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Because, of course, it would be premature to say we're going to deregionalize until we
No,
have the
right,
facts. Nobody
right.
can do that, and as I've said ad nauseum, and at the risk of being boring, I suspect very strongly that there's not going to be cost savings for deregionalization. That doesn't mean that you may not get some people that say, we don't really care if there's a cost savings. We will retain some modicum of control over our own destiny and spending. So I'm just trying to be responsive to what I'm hearing and seeing out there. Mr. Young.
Well, when you made the statement that was that just a rumor out there? That somebody's circulating a petition, or did somebody actually pull a petition?
Nobody has pulled a petition. I would say it's stronger than a rumor.
All right. But they would have to visit.
Yes, I understand. I don't believe that they have gone to our town clerk.
Okay.
Yeah, but
The other thing with his proposal for the amendment to the assessment method, that you're right, that would need to say that it's either, it would have to be an amendment to the regional school
Right.
agreement. It couldn't just be a lump sum proposal for town meeting to vote on.
Right.
Now, can I just ask, because I don't understand the process. 5, Proposition 2.5 override. Does that goes on the town meeting warrant and then?
Goes to the ballot.
Then goes to the ballot? What is voted on at town meeting? I just don't remember.
To put it on the ballot,
But
essentially.
it would already be on the ballot, wouldn't it?
She has to put it on the ballot in anticipation that it will pass.
And if it didn't pass,
then
it would be on the ballot, but it would be void.
It'd be void.
Yeah.
That's all I need to know.
Again,
All right.
and again, but thank you for bringing this up. To clarify, this is merely a placeholder. I do not want anybody to be under the mistaken impression that we are at a point where I'm suggesting an override or this board is suggesting an override. I want to be abundantly clear about that. We have not made that decision, but John and Greer are looking at placeholders so that we can pivot and respond to what we might hear tomorrow night and in the future weeks, and we've got to lock it down by March 8th, and we're not meeting till the 17th. So these are all the potential ways that we may have to pivot, but that is not to say that we are going to be advocating for an override. So any thoughts or discussion on that?
Yeah, they're just these are placeholders only, just because this is our last meeting before the.
I just want to clarify because I know how things will go, and people will just run with it. Okay, and any other? Yes, Mr. Dyer.
2 articles that I would like to place on here. I kind of spoke to it, John, earlier today. One would be to create up a revolving fund for the Energy Committee, just so we could work on projects. How I would imagine how it would work would be, right now we're discussing converting the street lights to LEDs. By doing so, National Grid will incentivize that, and they will write a check as a rebate to the town of Hanson, and we would hope by having an energy committee revolving account that would be able to put those earnings into that account for future projects towards energy efficiency here in the town of Hanson. As I was telling John, one thing I would want to make sure of is making sure that this account can be used for emergency HVAC repairs, that it could be available for any other projects in town that target energy efficiency.
Okay. Have we discussed that with Todd? I know he is vehemently and violently opposed to adding additional revolving accounts, so I just...
No, I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention because it seemed like tonight was like the night to...
All right, so I don't have a problem
placeholder,
putting a placeholder in there, but I do really respect Todd's opinion and would defer to him on whether ultimately he thinks that that's a good resolution. If you're okay with us further discussing it with him before we make an ultimate decision, I have no problem putting a placeholder in there.
Okay.
Do anybody else have an issue with it, or? Okay. And you said you had 2 items.
Well, they kind of go hand in hand, but we'll stop for now.
Okay, all right. Did you have your hand up, Mr. Young, or am I hallucinating? Okay, it won't be the first time tonight. Okay. All right, any other articles that you guys wanted? Okay, so do you need us to make a motion this evening?
Yes. Usually we don't, but yes, it can't hurt.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion.
To approve.
You putting these articles, putting the first 6 as, because they are standing, actually, there's quite a few in here that you have to have community preservation. So can you articulate for us which ones must be in the town warrant so that we then can break the vote up into those that are required and those that we are optionally choosing to put in there?
Sure. So on the special town meeting articles, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are required. 6 is, well, actually 6 is required because we have to pay that bill.
Yeah.
But that's the ones that you see every year are 1 through 5 on the special town meeting article. On special town meeting warrant. On the annual town meeting, the recurring ones you see every year are 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
Yep.
12, 13, 14, 15,
Yep.
19, 20, 21,
Okay.
and 26. 26 has to be on there because that sets the election.
I will entertain a motion to place those articles in the upcoming town warrant for both special and annual town meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? And I will entertain a motion to put a placeholder in for the remaining items until such time as we're able to do additional research and we have a better sense of where things might go with the school assessment issue.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
But does that include Mary Ann's that's not on here that we just saw?
That's an excellent point.
I did not add that,
Yeah.
I will have to add that. I apologize. That's,
We don't have to revote that now, John, do we?
no.
Okay.
So the revolving energy committee account, again, pending Todd's input, and then the community.
Energy aggregation.
Yep.
And just one real quick question, Matt, on that. When you say revolving account, you mean an enterprise fund, right? No?
No, it'll be a revolving account.
Yeah, I think Todd's going to have a
I was
coroner.
gonna say, let's not even discuss it tonight until we.
You know what Todd says.
Yeah.
Laura's right, I know what Todd's gonna say, because
Well, I hope the town hall defibrillator is working. That's all I've got to say about that.
Because I have a couple revolving accounts that we've been talking about
Yep.
trying to get rid of, which
Okay, any other motion or discussion on that? Okay, all right, great. Next up is Dollar for Scholars request to use McQuon School parking lot on May 2nd, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? The First Cast Fishing Derby, use of town green on September 12th.
So moved.
second.
All in favor? And we've got requests from Camp Quaney to declare doors and metal cots surplus.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? And I think we do have some
Photographs that were lovely.
photographs that are quite compelling. And then I will entertain a motion to approve the donation of 200 tote bags from Walker Clay, Inc.
Second.
What?
Work with me, people.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
One quick thing, Laura.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes.
Clay.
Thank
thanks.
you very much, Mr.
Yes.
Clay. But also, too, just a friendly reminder that donations have to be approved by us before we can accept them as the town, correct?
That is correct. That's correct. We are the only body that is empowered to accept donations on behalf of the town. And so hopefully, even though people are well-intentioned, that won't happen again. We have an appointment of a Dina Amato, and ma'am, is that you? Okay, great. I was just going out on a limb, since you were a new face, and we saw you in the audience. We're thrilled to have you. Did you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in applying for this position?
So my husband, for the last 25 years, has been trying to get me to get more involved in the town, and I finally caved. I have a lot of time on my hands, so I decided, I'm starting slow. I saw on the website that you were looking for someone for capital improvement, and I did used to be the secretary for the Hanover Capital Improvement.
Oh, great.
Many years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm familiar with, so I figured that would be a great place to start slow.
Well, that's great. I like your thought process. And maybe if you saw some best practices in Hanover, you can bring them on over to Hanson. We're not shy about borrowing from other towns. So did anybody have any questions for Mrs.
I was just going to
Amato?
suggest, have you met with Mr. Stanbrook and Mrs. Getson yet? And
I did with Greer. I have not met Mr. Stanbrook. I see you, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that's important. Make that connection. Okay?
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you for your service.
Okay. We are thrilled to have you. We love having people step up and volunteer. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of appointing Dina Amato to capital improvement with the term to expire 6/30/23? Thank you so
Thank you.
much. And hopefully that wasn't too painful. All right, great. One-day liquor licenses for Camp Kawani. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, old business. Mr. Stambrook, could you talk to us about the U.S. Census boundary survey?
Yes. So Assistant Assessor Lee Gamache reviewed the boundaries that were sent to us by the people at the Census, United States Census. The boundaries are correct, and it has to be returned to them by March 1st. She did look at it, everything looks good, and they are correct according to her. So just need to sign this document, send it back before.
So do you need us to make a motion to compel you to sign that?
Actually, you have to sign this.
I have to sign it.
It's the highest, what's the exact wording here? I'm sorry.
It is.
The highest elected official.
Yes, the highest elected official.
Or
I'm nervous already.
or tribal chair.
Yeah, so it's either,
Okay.
it has to be you or a tribal
All right, but do
chair.
we need a motion for that? Okay, great. So unless anybody has an objection, I will sign that. Moving right along. Mr. Stambrook, Town Administrator Goals and Objectives.
So I think we all got together with Greer and sent in your administrators, my goals and objectives for the year, and that's on the list here that you have. There were 25 of them. Maybe it's something that you could take home, review, make sure you got everything, that if you have any new ones, or if you like this setup, or maybe something to take under advisement, and if we're okay with it, then we can discuss it.
I like the setup very much.
Yeah.
I really think it helps categorize them, so mentally you can kind of say, oh, look, we're focusing on all of these different areas of governance, budget, economic development, communications, stakeholder, townwide improvements. What do people feel like they need time to contemplate these more than we already have, or I don't know where everybody is on that.
I had said, and I have to word this carefully, I did talk to John and said that our previous town administrator was given 5 objectives. And then I think I stopped right there, and I don't go say what the punchline was. But to me, I don't want, I'm laughing because I will say that right above number 18, I won't say it, but if you go to number 18 and read the line above it, it's like, I just said to John, I don't want to be that town. This is not, this is just me. This is called a 40-year teacher saying, if this was my goals and objectives for a year, every person in my union would be up at arms. We have a new town administrator who is coming in and trying to get the feel of, I have no idea how many hundred people, not including the citizens, who he also has to get his hands around and stuff, and to give something like this detail and say, this. It's like, to me, for a first year, this is out of control.
Okay, fair enough, Mr. Bloss, but when I look at this, I think it may be not titled correctly, because I don't see this as only the town administrator's goals. I believe many of these are goals that each of us are responsible for bringing over the line. For instance, the highway, or McQuan is me. And so I think maybe what might get you to a place where you'd feel more comfortable, so it isn't as unwieldy and it doesn't seem as though we're giving him more than he's able to accomplish, is to maybe go through, and if we can each kind of let Greer know, hey, by the way, like, I'm kind of working on this, so for instance, I don't know, like Matt with Plymouth County Hospital, or there are a few things in here that I think he needs to do that I don't.
But to my point, then I would say, what are the few things that right now, in year 1 of his administratorship, we say, these few things are his, and that's the town administrator's goals.
That's what
to
I'm
have
saying.
all this other stuff in here. I don't want to say, Laura, you're responsible for, Matt, you're responsible for, Wes, you're responsible. We can have that list, But that isn't this. To me, this is just Wes speaking. This is not the board.
No, and I appreciate that. What I guess I'm trying to say is, to me, this, yes, I know it says it's the town administrator's goals. I really looked at them as the selectmen and the town admin, both of our goals. So some of those we're responsible for. So I think we can easily, for instance, like in the townwide improvements, finalize installation of cell tower. I mean, there's really nothing for John to do on that other than get the document signed, which I think he's going to be doing post haste. Finalize plans, commence building highway facility. That's totally on Kenny. I mean, you know, like Kenny will be working with John, but like it's not really John's responsibility. So I think maybe we can just go through, peel those off, and then I think we'd have like 4 or 5 main things that we would expect him to work on, like revitalizing Main Street, you know, like that type of thing. Yeah.
That's where I am, but
Yeah.
I mean, Mr. Stanbrook did tell me that this form came from a town where there was a town manager
Yes.
and 2 assistant town managers.
Yeah.
Which is not Hanson.
Yeah.
And
So-
Mr. Stanbrook is not a town manager, he's a town administrator. So that itself is a whole different, well, I don't know, that's where I'm coming from.
So how Greer, since you're really going to be the laboring oar on this, what's the best way for us to winnow this list down and get the things that only John is responsible for?
Perhaps what I could do is take it and say, okay, the selectman is working on this goal or this project, and you know, take those and put them in different colors, and then John's can ultimately be in yellow or something, and those would be his 4 or 5 goals.
Okay, and then I think probably where I think Mr. Bloss was going, since he had helped to start the review process with our prior town administrator, is we want a separate document that's pulled out so that when we are talking to John about his progress on those goals and his performance, we are just focusing on those 4 or 5 things.
We could do that.
Yes,
I
okay.
think that makes sense.
Is that? Okay.
Exactly.
All right, okay. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with Wes. Just
Okay.
because the other thing, you can always add to it.
Yes.
If you had to, or, you know, his second year and stuff, you can add to it, but we don't want to scare the poor guy out either. Because
Mr. Dyer.
that's a lot of stuff
Yeah.
on there.
I also, I mean, I will just say, several times people come to me from the town and say, listen, you're on the selectmen, blah, 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 I want this done. Can you do this? And my stock answer is, I'm only one person of 5. I had no authority. I can bring it to the town administrator to put on an agenda, and the board can discuss this.
Yep.
But only the board can discuss this. I mean, this is really just a message to the town saying, not one person here has the authority to go to Mr. Stanbrook and say, do this.
Right.
In fact, the 5 of us all went through a training program with our town council that said, you have no authority as a board member. Only the board has the authority. So none of us are allowed to go and say, I want that pothole fixed. Talk to Matt Cahill. None of us.
That was a good example, Mr. Bloss.
I'm just looking at Mr. Stanbrook and saying, none of us are allowed to do that.
Not just Mr. Stanbrook, any employee.
Any
we don't have
employee,
the power
no one
to
has
go and
the,
say,
no one has
you
the
know.
power. Mr. Stanbrook's stock answer, when he gets a complaint, I mean, you haven't heard, I think, from a certain street, but you will. And possibly Mrs. Marini will still be in her little cubbyhole and be able to say, okay, listen, this is how this works. But your answer is, basically, I'll bring it up to the Board of Selectmen.
Yep.
And they'll just, I mean, I suppose the pothole is a bad, wrong thing. Probably you do have some authority yourself to say, can that pothole be dealt with? But by and large, none of us are asking you to do anything. Only the board is directing you to do anything, so, just so we're all clear on that.
Yeah, so we're all clear. Matt has till Friday to get it fixed. How about that? Mr. Bloss?
So we do have differing opinions, but, I think maybe doing that, and then even just for ourselves, like setting, like, this is a this year goal, this is a one we probably, you know, like, because obviously not all of these are the same priority. Mr. Dyer.
Yeah, to kind of follow up with what you just said, I think it might help Greer to be able to assign each task or put a name next to each task. If we all went through this and emailed Greer and said, oh, I'm in charge of 3, 4, 5, whatever it may be, just so that way Greer can kind of get a better understanding of what we're working on.
Yep.
And then I like what you just said of, let's be pulling this out quarterly and saying, all right, how's this project going? What can we do to help speed it along? Because I think that's really important. I always find us making plans, I find us making documents, and we never pull them back
Studies
out.
and- yeah.
So I think that's a really good idea, Laura.
Okay, so we got a game plan, right? Sure. All right, good. All right, are you comfortable with that, John?
Absolutely.
Okay,
It's my
great.
job to do what this board wants me to do, so I'll do whatever it is, whatever
Well,
the
we love
goals,
your attitude.
the goals and objectives, yours or mine. So whatever they are, that's where I'll go.
All right, great. Discuss override committee. As you know, and Greer, I believe you did post us for the school committee meeting tomorrow, just in the event that we show up and we want to deliberate the hell out of whatever they're talking about. I'm not anticipating that, but you never know. Again, formation of an override committee is not a foregone conclusion that we are going to do an override. It is simply, should we get some folks together to study whether this is something we want to do? And I'm totally fine with us kicking the can down the road or not doing it at all. We can certainly wait until we hear what the school committee has got to say. Thoughts?
I think it's, I'm sorry.
No, you go.
Okay. I think it's way too early to form an override committee. I think that if we do have to go that route, you're not going to have time anyways, but I think it's way too early in the game to form an override committee, considering we don't know what the schools, we don't know what's going on
We
there.
don't know anything.
Yeah.
This is why people get you and I confused, because I was thinking the exact same thing that you just said.
People get you guys confused?
Good minds think alike.
A lot of people say, are you Kenny Mitchell? They say that to me all the time.
It's difficult as it is to mention the O word in public because people shy away from the O word. Let's keep this in mind, okay? If the assessment from last year was level funded, which we know isn't a possibility, because the last few years it's gone up 6, 7, 8.5%. Even if it was level funded, and I talked to John about this, the assessment for Hanson using the statutory method, of which Whitman shows no signs of backing off of the statutory method unless somebody knows something that I don't know or any other person knows something. The assessment for Hanson would go up $1,150,000, and the assessment for Whitman would go down $1,150,000. Those are given figures. Those are figures that are fact, correct?
Yes.
Absolute fact right now. If it happens to go up 5%, which is what Whitman has floated around with their override committee and the selectmen, the assessment for Hanson would go up $1,600,000. The assessment for Whitman would go down $400,000. So keep that in mind. That is a given, all right? Those two figures I gave you are a given. If the required amount that was proposed by the superintendent, I'm not saying that's going to happen, is accepted by the school committee, Hanson's assessment would go up $2.2 million. If the recommended assessment was to go into effect, Hanson's assessment would go up $3.4 million. Those are given figures. Could be somewhere in between. But the lowest it's ever going to be is $1,150,000.
Okay, so to tie it back to the
Those are all
override.
given figures.
Yes.
So unless Whitman changes its attitude and plays ball with Hanson and finds us some kind of really neat compromise between the statutory method and the percentage of pupils method, which we've been using for the past 61 years, then those are givens. So just keep that in mind.
So, how are you relating that to the override committee?
I'm just saying that not to talk about having an override committee or discussing an override or having saying it may not happen is very, very more than wishful thinking at this point.
I see where you're going with that, but I think there's essentially two paths. Either the state steps in and takes over, or there's an override, or Whitman caves. and says, oh, we're going to go back to the regional agreement method. Since I don't see the third option happening, that essentially leaves two paths, which is the members of the school committee stand firm from Hanson, and they do not pass a budget, and then the state steps in, and we know what happens there, or there's some type of an agreement that we need to do an override to meet our needs. And that's why I have it on there, just because
Well, and I don't want to be premature, and I hear what you're saying,
Yeah.
Laura, and what Mr. Young is saying, but tonight, nothing's been done.
No, we don't have the
All
numbers,
Selectman Mitchell suggested was, it's too early tonight to discuss or to form an override committee, which I agree with. So I appreciate you giving us the figures,
Those will not change.
but that's not what we're discussing. Whatever the figures are, the figures are. What's to be discussed is whether we're going to discuss the forming an override committee or not. And I agree with Kenny that tonight, right now, today, it's too early.
Just keep in mind, and I agree with you guys, but just keep in mind, and you may get to a point where, depending upon when we get the numbers, you're right, we might not even have time to do an override committee, which I would not want to happen, because I would like to try to be as inclusive of people out there that have got opinions and are invested, and I've had people reach out and say, hey, if you guys ever form this, I'd be interested. So I hope that that's not what happens, but we may end up just having to decide it on our own.
I think you just laid out clearly what the options are a couple minutes ago. You know?
And it may be on our agenda in 2 weeks.
Right. And I don't like all those answers you said, but it's reality.
I'm just giving you facts,
It's
where
reality.
we're at now, so, yes, Mr. Dyer.
Could I just give another point of view here? I don't think it would be a bad thing to create an override committee, because we all know how long we've been reading the vacancies on these committees. It might not be bad to start advertising it, have names on files.
That's why I put it there, because I thought there'd be some lead time needed to create it. And so even though we don't have anything right now for them to study, the formation of it probably needs to take place before we have the numbers to study. That's kind of why I kept putting it on
I don't think it would be a bad thing to have the names on files. And hey, you know what? If we have time to get a committee's opinion on it, great. If we don't, oh well. But at least we made that effort to make sure that we included everyone to the best of our ability and what our timeline says. I don't think it's a bad thing. And as I said, you don't necessarily have to use the committee. It's just get names on record so we can give a call to everyone.
I get where Kenny and Jim are coming from, because we don't know anything, so there's nothing for them to talk about, but I don't think it's that the committee would get formed overnight. I think it would be a process, and as you said, whether we even get any hale and hearty, people to sign up and do it. But people have reached out to me and said, hey, if you need people for an override committee, if you guys start doing that, I'd be interested. And I'm not just talking about Mr. Young.
Okay, well,
I've had other people reach out. Yeah.
Then, can someone tell me what an override committee would do? I mean, I looked at this and said, I suppose you're talking a finance committee member, a selectman, a town administrator. It's like
A couple citizens at large to get their perspective.
what's the perspective? The perspective isn't it entirely money? I mean, it's only what's the figure? Am I missing more? Is there more than what's the figure that the override needs to have to accomplish what we need? What else is there in an override article?
The override committee would, if I could, would look at the whole town as a whole, and project an override, so you wouldn't need an override every year. You want to get something in there that involves every department. They look at cost-cutting measures within the town to try to limit the override to what it has to be.
So is the override committee a publicity? I mean, I don't know why Jerry Thompson would want to be on an override committee that really is his job to say, all right, if this fails, this is how many people I'm going to lose, and therefore I'm going to publicize this to the town?
No, I don't, you weren't suggesting Jerry was going to be on it.
No, but I'm just saying, why, I'm not sure why do you want citizens on the, all I really want is Todd. Realistically, Kevin Sullivan, have like 2 or 3 numbers people and say, listen, if we pass the override, okay. If we don't pass the override, we understand where the town is gonna be cut, we get that. But I mean, I'm not sure why a member of the PTO, God bless the PTO and the Polar Plunge, great. But why do I want a member of the PTO, a citizen at large, deciding what the figure is for an override? Isn't the article just going to say, the town vote to override Proposition 2.5 by dollar figure? If there's no more to that, the article than that, then what is the function of another committee?
Ms. Diaz.
Mr. Bloss, I think people in town would be upset if you came to them and said, this is what we have to do, and none of them had any input on how you arrived at that spot. So I can see why you would say, is it a waste of time? But if you've got Todd, you've got Mr. Sullivan, you've got people in the town, they look at the whole big picture and come up with the best plan, people will feel as if they've had some input into it, and that there's somebody else other than people here at Town Hall that understand what went into it and what has to be done. I think if you don't include people, then they feel like there's no transparency, they don't know what's going on, and then one more thing's being stuffed down their throat. That's just my opinion.
Well, I can live with that, but it just sounds like what you're really doing is publicity.
But, well, who are the citizens?
It's who
Is it a young couple that their children haven't started school yet? Or could it be a retired accountant?
Do you want to get a blend of people from different groups?
It's whoever applies. We're not.
It's right. Right. The thing is, you're gonna need a hook to bring them in.
You could stay
Well, I don't think we have to worry about a hook.
I just don't think 6 or 7 or 8 people on a committee can represent the whole town.
And we just came from a committee that was going to have 24,
For me, there's not enough time. There's just not enough time to form this committee, get 8 people. I mean, we got this stuff down our throat.
Oh, I know.
So the citizens are getting the same thing that we got.
Okay, fair
And
enough.
they know exactly, they know everything we know.
Fair enough. So
As of right now, tonight.
Except I hear that people don't understand it. They don't fully comprehend it, but that isn't necessarily the job of the override committee. So what I'm hearing the majority say is that you guys don't think that we've got enough time, and then we'd have to figure out the composition and their mission and all this other kind of stuff. And we've got other things that we need to do. But I had asked Greer and John to start working on putting together a citizens information panel.
Yes.
For some time in March. So maybe that helps to meet.
We discussed that in the
what
past.
you were talking about, Arlene, which is getting that information out there, and we can solicit feedback at that citizens panel. It isn't an override committee, but it is a forum for people to express their concerns and. Pardon?
Having Jay
Yes,
come,
we said would have our attorney, would have FinCom, would have Todd, and, obviously us, and then, we'll fill in the blanks. Somebody from school committee, basically,
That's a better idea.
yeah.
And Kenny's right, because we weren't in a financial crisis. We may be in one, but, we weren't in one 6 months ago.
Right.
We had to form a committee.
Right.
And find how we're gonna get ourselves out of it.
Right.
And then come up with a number of, we're gonna need for an override.
Right.
I think that's a better way to go, what you just said.
Okay, so I think that meets our
I do too.
needs, and so we can just strike the override committee from our agenda prospectively. Okay.
Make it at a secret place in a secret time so that Whitman doesn't know we're doing it.
Okay,
That's called secret squirrel, John.
Yep.
All right, great. Any other discussion on that? All right, that said, Mr. Stanbrook, Town Administrator's Report.
I just wanted to just point out one thing that maybe perhaps Mr. Bloss could read the announcements. I think we skipped over
thank
those
you.
in the beginning.
John, no, we gotta spoil it.
Mr. Bloss?
Everyone's leaving?
Don't leave, folks.
They're important announcements that everyone needs to know.
Thank you, Mr. Stanbrook, for keeping us honest.
Everybody ready?
We're ready.
We are ready.
On March 14th, the Hanson Business Network will be hosting its third annual St. Patrick's Day fundraiser to benefit the Hanson Food Pantry from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. at Needles Lodge in Camp Kewanee. This event will be a St. Patrick's themed shindig complete with dinner, live Irish music DJ'd, Irish music and Irish step dancing performance, cash bar, a silent auction, and a St. Patrick's Day photo booth. Tickets are a bargain at $30 per person and may be purchased online at Eventbrite by emailing Laura Kemet at lfitzkemet@gmail.com or by calling 781-294-1261. Discounts are available for folks who purchase 8 tickets or more. Please visit the Hanson Business Network Facebook page for more information. If you cannot attend but wish to donate an item for or silent auction or raffle, it would be deeply appreciated. Nomination papers for the May 16th Town of Hanson annual election are now available at the Hanson Town Clerk's office. For more information, contact the Town Clerk at 781-293-2772. Early voting began on February 24th and will continue through February 28th, 2020 for the presidential primary on March 3rd. Early voting can be done in person at the Hanson Town Hall, 542 Liberty Street, during regular business hours, which are Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Tuesday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. and Friday, 8 a.m. to 12 noon. Voting may be done anytime during those hours from February 24 to February 28. Absentee ballots are now available at the Hanson Town Clerk's office for the presidential primary being held on Tuesday, March 3rd. Any registered voter who is unable to vote in person on Election Day due to absence from town, physical disability, or religious belief may obtain an absentee ballot. Voters may absentee vote in person at the Town Clerk's office or by mail. Applications for absentee ballots will be accepted at the Town Clerk's office until 12 noon Monday, March 2nd. For more information, call the Town Clerk's office at 781-293-2772. All voters and residents who have not returned their 2020 census form are urged to do so by the Town Clerk. Any voter who has not returned their 2020 town census form will be placed on the inactive voter list for future elections. Whitman and Hanson Dollars for Scholars will be celebrating the 13th annual A Taste of Whitman and Hanson on Thursday, March 5th at the VFW Post 697 in Whitman from 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. Up to 24 local restaurants and food service providers will be offering samples from their menu to the general public. Tickets are $15 per person in advance and $20 at the door with limited capacity. Ticket sales began on February 15th at Duval's Pharmacy, Ford's Insurance, Sandy's Coffee Corner, and the Town Clerk's offices in Whitman and Hanson. Tickets may also be purchased online at eventbrite.com. A list of participating restaurants will also be available. All proceeds from the evening will benefit Dollars for Scholars in the form of scholarships at awards night. For more information, please contact Michael Ganshert at 781-252-9683 or visit www.whitmanandhanson.dollarsforscholars.org. Volunteers are needed on the following committees: 200th Anniversary, Conservation Commission Regular, and 2 associate members, Cultural Council, Disabilities, Economic Development, Finance, Highway Building Committee, Historical Commission, Memorial Day Patriotic Observance, Memorial Field Trustees, North River Commission, and Zoning Board Alternate. Applications for appointment and info on the committee is available on the town website, www.hanson-ma.gov. Upcoming meetings, all selectmen, Tuesday, March 17th, Tuesday, March 24th, and Tuesday, April 4th, all of them at 7 p.m. And please join Green Hanson and the Whitman Hanson Student Environmental Action Club for free movie night on Saturday, February 29th. 5:30, doors open, 6 o'clock start. The title is The Need to Grow, Save the Soil, Save the World. It is at Camp Kewanee Needles Lodge, free admission for all ages, popcorn and beverage available, but you have to bring your own reusable bottle. Discussion will be held after the film. Questions, please email greenhanson@gmail.com or connect on the Green Hanson Facebook page.
And Greer, can you confirm that we still have a Conservation Commission opening? I thought we filled that.
I just put a question mark on
Okay.
that. When I heard it read, I thought, I think,
Okay.
yeah, we just filled it. I will remove it. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you. And thank you for doing that so wonderfully. And Mr. Stanbrook.
So just as a way of old business from the last meeting, some of the things that we were talking about. Town council had been working directly with New Bedford Waste to try to work out a 6-month contract for our recyclables. A tentative agreement has been reached, and Town Council Jay Tallerman is working on that agreement. It hasn't been finalized yet, but we will have an agreement in place that's a little bit more than what we had paid in January. But it will be firm for the rest of the fiscal year. There'll be no escalator in it. So as soon as that's finalized, I'll let everyone know, but we're almost there on that. So the Whitman Hanson Regional School District Operation and Comparative Audit, the invitation for bid has been posted and sent out with a due date for response of March 12th. And I'd like to thank Whitman Town Administrator Frank Lynham for working with me to get that bid out. That was the one that we had talked about several weeks in a row, and that is out on the street waiting for a March 12th responses. I spoke to Town Moderator Sean Keeley about overflow crowd preparations at the annual town meeting. That was something that came up from the last meeting. And he told me that if another room is needed at the middle school, he'll appoint a temporary moderator to oversee that other room and relay questions and votes to him in the main room, and then sound and video will have to be set up in that room. And if it's just a huge crowd, he suggested that maybe we might look into holding it at the high school so that we can accommodate everyone. They might even talk about daycare facilities or something that just in case people want to show up with their children. So I'm going to meet with him again next month to try to review and officially plan a strategy, but at least we had beginning discussions on what to do if there is a large crowd. Yep. On the Zoning Board of Appeals, we talked about that at the last meeting. So I met with the Zoning Board of Appeals Chairman, Bill Cushing, and he kind of gave me a rundown of where we were with the tower and the lease agreement. So on August 6th of last year, we had the first hearing on the proposed tower at the middle school. And then September 10th, they had a continuance of that first meeting. October 1st of 19, there was another meeting held. November 12th, the tower was moved based on a site visit, and some abutters concerns that were brought up during the meetings. January 7th of this year, the final hearing and the vote to approve was held. At that meeting, a resident did raise objections at the hearing. The Zoning Board Appeal heard those objections and voted 3-0 to approve the project. There weren't any closed or executive sessions. All the meetings were open to the public. Residents could hear the discussion and make comments at any of those meetings. The decision was recorded with the town clerk on February 12th. That started a 21-day appeal period. That appeal period ends on March 3rd. Anyone that wants to can file an appeal in Superior Court. That's usually done with an attorney. So that's kind of where we are with it right now, and I think it's ready to be signed.
And have all of those minutes been posted out on, because they weren't when I asked you about this, posted out on our town website?
I know that our zoning board person is working on them, and I'm not, she was, when I spoke with her yesterday, she was working on those minutes. I don't know if she finished or not. I can follow up.
Okay, I feel very satisfied that they've done everything that they needed to do and that they've been responsive, and I appreciate you looking into that. So did you need us to make a motion?
It's just the lease agreement as amended is to be signed. So
okay.
So we just need to sign.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
And that kind of does well too. So that was all the old business. Now in the new business, the town website has been down the last 2 days. It has not been the town's fault. It's been our vendor who does our website. They've been down region-wide.
I heard that, yeah.
So we're having problems. I apologize to the people out there that want to pay taxes. We want your money, but right now they're having having a lot of problems. Our vendor is of keeping our website up. So we're on it. We know about it. We apologize for the problems, and we're trying our best to fix it.
We also have a Dropbox too, John.
They can always come in
right in front of Town Hall. You don't even have to get out of your car. You can pull right up, and you can slide your check right in there.
Absolutely, you could do that very easily. As a matter of fact, that might be easier than going on the website. So that's something.
It took a few town meetings to get it, but we have it
now. I received the capital plan from the Capital Improvement Committee. I think it was today. So I'm working with John Norton on that committee, and also our town accountant Todd to go through the list, and there'll be more of that coming up. But I did receive the plan. The Makwan School deadline for responses to the request for information was February 18th. We didn't receive any responses to that request for information, so I'm going to be working with Town Planner Deb Petty to plan our next steps. Right now, no one had any official response to what we were trying to do there. The ADA self-assessment through quote process bid is out, and with a due date of March 4th. The work needs to be completed by June 30th because it's related to a grant that we're doing. And I'd like to thank Town Planner Deb Petty for her hard work in getting that process going. The town auditors, Lynch Marini Associates, have been tentatively scheduled for March 24th to come in and speak, and said we want to kind of move it along and not get into the weeds, but just go over, have an overview of the audit. They're just going to give a quick overview of the town audit and the management letter and answer any questions that you have. The sale of the fire truck, the fire chief tried to contact Auctions International and Municipal based on what we spoke of. I guess that's more of an old business type of thing. I should have had it up there. But the only Auctions International gave the chief a call back. Municipal never called him back. So the Municipal's pricing scheme is a 9% charge to the buyer and a 0% charge to the town. Auctions International is a 7% chance to the charge to the buyer and a $30 charge to us if we sell it. So I gave the go-ahead to the chief to try to go with at least go with the company that can actually get back to us. And we have that ready to go with Auctions International. We'll have that going up and running very soon. He's working with that company. And then finally, I attended the Bicentennial Gala last Saturday at the Lakeside Villa, and I had a great time. The room looked fantastic. The wonderful decorations all around. Yes. The food was very good, very superb. It was well done by everyone there, so congratulations to them. Take it from someone who is seeing it for the first time and seeing what can be done here. It's very impressive. So, thank you.
Oh, that's great. And so the 200th Anniversary Committee, a shout out to Ann Merlin, who was the brains behind the decorations, and her attention to detail was just unparalleled. And I think it really helped to make it like an immersive experience for everybody. And we thank Mr. Young for bringing his Victrolas, and Arlene Verity for teaching people the Charleston. Hanson Historical Society and the library brought collections for people to enjoy. So it was a good kickoff to the year as our first event. And people really got into the spirit, including all these guys up here were in the spirit of the 1920s, and I think a good time was had by all. But we've got many more events. The next event is going to be the St. Patrick's Day event, which Mr. Boss read is on March 14th. And then the next event after that is Hanson Day. So we're looking for businesses, churches, civic organizations, and the like to join us on Hanson Day on June 6th. And if you're interested, look it up on Facebook. It is the Hanson Business Network Hanson Day. And that's all I've got on that. Mr. Mitchell. Plymouth County.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I'm saying Plymouth County.
we can move around.
Yeah, you guys want to switch roles today? Mr. Dyer. Sorry about that.
We're moving along with Plymouth County. We're meeting tomorrow to finalize more plans and hopefully have something more defined for town meeting.
We've got a placeholder there, so we're good. Yeah, that's great. Makwan School reuse, John just gave you the update on that. At some point, we're going to have to figure out if we're just going to pull the trigger and demolish the building, because we can say in all good faith, full faith and confidence, we have tried to reuse the building. We have tried to get somebody to buy the building. Kenny?
So we're not posted, but we're trying to meet for next Monday. We've got some serious discussions, so hopefully I'll have better news for you guys on the 17th.
Well, that sounds, like a cliffhanger right there. Okay.
It's tough, but I don't want to spill the beans.
All right. With that, I will entertain a motion.
One more quick acknowledgement. I just wanted to say a quick acknowledgement for the Board of Registrars. They were here late on the last day to register to vote for the primaries, and I just thought that was really great that they were here until 8 o'clock, ready to sign people up to vote. So
And it's been pretty busy.
and it has been very busy with the one early voting. So thank you to everyone that's helping out.
Any other shout outs?
That's it for this week.
All right, great. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Great. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you, Carol.
Where do we